Welcome to the New School Year webinar. I'm your host, Laura Wheeler. So let's get started. In this video, we will be covering setting up your new roster, prior year progress reports, participant profiles and barriers, retention reports, and the JAG Indiana staff website. So let's start off with new roster setup. When setting up a new roster, you'll need to click the down arrow on the All Active Participants drop-down box on the left-hand side of your screen. You'll scroll down to the very bottom where it says Actions, and then select New Roster. When the box populates to the right, you'll select the roster type, multi-year, alternative ed, out of school, and then you'll enter the school year. Once you enter 2019, 2020 will automatically populate. The roster name will also automatically populate as the roster type and the school year. You'll need to edit this to make it unique. You could add your charter number or school initials or school name. Below that, you're going to find a space for your advisory committee. These people can be the same as the prior year, or they can change from year to year. You can include school admin staff like principal, vice principal, guidance counselors, attendance secretary. You could have a resource officer, a nurse, a librarian, or teachers such as 10th or 11th grade English teacher, math teachers, special education teachers, resource room staff, other core staff that you frequently see working with the students that you have in your classroom or students who you want in your classroom. The purpose of this group of people is to assist you in recruiting and identifying the right student for your class, as well as being a support system within the school for you. Your advisory committee can meet formally or informally. You could meet in person, through emails. It's truly up to you and your school. Once you have your new roster created, you can then use the continuations button up in the right-hand corner. It's that blue button that says continuations to add in students who are continuing from last year to this year. Once you click the button, a pop-up window will appear with last year's students, and you'll simply click those students and follow those steps to add them in. Once you have your roster created, your continuing students added, then you're going to need to add new students. To do this, you'll click the Enter menu up on the top red banner, and when it drops down, you'll select Profiles. The screen that will pop up looks like this one here. It says Enter Participant Profiles. Be sure that the correct roster is selected, the 2019-2020 roster. So for this screen, you'll need quite a bit of information. So it's a good idea to review what's needed prior to entering information because EMDNS will not let you save a partially completed participant profile. You'll need information like contact and demographics, interested others who are super helpful when you're doing your follow-up. You'll need information about their current grade in school, current school and work plans for the future, their last employer information, if they've ever been employed, information about their current living situation, information about their parents' employment and education history, household income or support information, some academic standings information, as well as further barrier questions. You'll notice on some of the drop-down menus that there is an option that says no response. You may not use the no response answer. If it is used, you'll be asked to clean that up. There are answers such as information not available or does not know, and those are fine. You just cannot use no response. When you scroll further down on this screen, you'll get to the barriers list. You'll notice that some barriers may have already been checked off from entering some of the above information. For example, if they had a 2.0 GPA or lower, the low academics performance box will check, or if you enter that they had more than 10 absences for that prior school year, the excessive absenteeism button will be checked. So a little bit of information on some different barriers. Check with your region regarding the basic skills deficient barrier, as we no longer are using the TABE test as a threshold for that. Each region has some regional inflection on the determining factors for that barrier. You may now use the LEAP or L barriers. And if your student has a 504 plan, it is very important that you use the O1 other barrier, and in that text box you type in 504. If you're using this O1 other barrier to put in information about other barriers, be sure that 504 plan is the first thing listed, and then separate each thing with a comma. A few examples of other things that could be entered in the other barrier. It could be extreme low self-esteem, parental drug addiction, a deceased parent, being a victim of domestic violence. You can always ask your JAG manager if you have any questions about what could go in the other barrier. What won't go in that is barriers that are captured other places, such as having an IEP or disability. Some barrier information that's just not captured at all would be like lack of resume, lack of knowledge on scholarships, job applications, career planning or goals. Something else that won't be captured here is just recommendation to be a participant in the program. You'll have to go through the barrier list and find a barrier that the student has. Again, if you have any questions, please speak with your JAG manager. You'll also notice that a variety of barriers have open text boxes next to them. If there is a text box next to the barrier, such as disability, you'll need to enter information regarding that disability in the text box. Be sure that every student needs, wants, and can benefit from the JAG program and does have at least 5 barriers. If you need to add more barriers or remove barriers that have been resolved as you move through the school year, you'll do that from the Barrier tab under the student's individual drop-down menu. After you complete the participant profile and barrier screen, you will not go back to this screen to edit. All right, once your student is entered into the system and their profile and barriers are completed, you'll enter the information for the student's prior year progress report. You'll do this by going to the Enter drop-down menu on the red banner at the top of the screen, selecting Progress Reports, and then the screen will populate with what you see below. Once that screen populates, be sure to check the prior year checkbox and then click the End of Year button. If you did have students who continued from the last year, their information will automatically populate from their end of year progress report if it was entered. You'll only need to enter information for your new students here. Look through the different categories that need to be entered and make sure you have all of the information for the student before you start entering it. Again, EMDMS won't let you save partial information. Next up is retention reports. On this, you'll be selecting the 2018-2019 roster, and you'll need to complete this prior to September 30th. Again, this is last year's roster. So what you'll do is click the Enter menu on the red banner, and when that drop-down appears, you'll click Retention. You'll see a screen similar to this. There'll be a list of end-of-year status that should already be completed, and then on the right side, September 30th status. So you'll simply enter the student status as of around the September 30th date. Some of it may be a bit redundant. For example, if they were listed as graduated on end of year status, more than likely they'll be entered as graduated on the September 30th status. It's important to note here that this status does not enter or trigger anything for their graduation date in the system. So be sure if they're listed as a graduate here that they do have a graduation date listed on the graduation screen, either on their individual drop-down menu under their contact demographics screen or under the Enter drop-down menu under graduation. And lastly, I want to draw your attention to the JAG Indiana staff resource website. It can be found at tinyurl.com/JAGIN-staff. And here you'll find all sorts of important resource information, such as our JAG Indiana calendar with pacing guide, the curriculum warehouse, where you can find lesson plans that have been submitted over the past 5 years from different specialists across the state, descriptions of different competencies, and online copies of all of the specialist resource binders. If you have any questions or if you need help, please feel free to contact me at lwheeler@dwd.in.gov or your JAG manager. That is all for today. Be on the lookout for next month's technical assistance video featuring reports and, of course, topics requested from you. Thank you.